Right, let's start with different terms, right? So these are Incoterms 2020, right? These are the latest terms. Some may have changed, some may have been introduced. So this is the latest Incoterm for the that is being practiced right now across the world, right? So the very first category is the transportation for all modes, which includes land, which includes air as well, right? So there are multiple terms. So the very first term is EXW or X works, right? For example, I am a buyer, right? I have placed an order with a supplier here, right? And I have asked, okay, and I have said that, okay, I have very good relation with the transporters, right? So I will bear all the responsibilities. I have very good negotiated rate with the transporters. So I will ask the seller to quote the rate of the products at their facility, right? And I will pick the material from their stockyard, right? So that is what is called X work, right? So being a seller, I will take the product cost, I will take all the detail, I will take put the profit, right? And will close the price and will quote the price of the product, which will not include any transportation. Why? Because the material is going to be picked from by the buyer from my facility. So that is what is called X work, right? Or X warehouse, right? Then is FCA, free carrier, right? Here the seller is going to take a bit further, right? Now where from warehouse he is going to take the product to a certain carrier where the buyer is going to communicate, right? So for example, the buyer says that, okay, take the goods, right, from your warehouse and deliver it to a certain you can say loading point, right, of a transporter, right? So that is what free carrier is, right? So which means that there is some inland transportation, that's it, right? The main transportation from that city to another city is going to be borne by the buyer, right? Just in this price you have the product cost, you have the profit, you have the main inland transportation from the facility to the transportation counter, right? So that is FCA. Right. Then comes CPT, carriage paid to. Right. So carriage means it is a land transport. Right. So you are having that the seller is also going to pay for the transportation till the destination. Right. So no unloading, only the transportation is going to be paid by the seller. So product cost, profit, inland transportation, and transportation from their city, right, seller city to the buyer city, right? So that is what carriage paid to. In between the transit, right, from the facility till the that destination, if anything happens to the cargo, that is going to be the responsibility of the seller, because he is till that time the product is being delivered to the buyer's facility, he is taking the charge, he is handling all the costs. So the responsibility of the goods is going to be going to the seller in case anything happens to the product, right? In order to save from that, in order to be safe from that, then you have to add another element that is called insurance, right? So that is going to be CIP, carriage and insurance paid to that destination, right? So again, responsibility is on the buyer, right? In case anything happens to the goods, right, the buyer is the seller, right? So the seller is going to claim all the responsibility, right? And in case anything happens to the goods, right, he is going to file all the insurance, get all the claims from the insurance company, right? So still the responsibility is with the seller till the time the product is being delivered to the destination, right? Then comes DAP, right? Delivered at place, right? Means another, right? So destination, the product has been shifted to the dispatched to the destination, right? After that, maybe they have to unload it or they have to again reload it to another vehicle, right? So you have to shift one more place. You have to shift of another carriage. So that is what delivered at place. So there is another transportation mode being added to the seller, right? So his responsibility is now even more extended, right? Then comes DPU, right? So delivered at the place unloaded, right? Means same, delivered at place, but now here delivered at place unloaded. So the crane charges are going to be paid by the buyer, right? So as soon as we are increasing the things, right, the the responsibilities on the seller is increasing, right? So this is the responsibility on the buyer is decreasing, right, while the responsibility on the seller is increasing, right? So last one is DDP, delivered duty paid, right? So maybe you have there might be some border shifting, so that it can add up to the duties as well or tariff as well, right? So the duty is also going to be paid by the seller, right? So DDP, so everything is going to be charged, right, by from the buyer, right, upfront in the price of the product. So product cost, profit, inland transportation from one city to another, right? Unloading cost, maybe you have to reload it from that transportation hub to another vehicle to the warehouse of the product, to the warehouse of the buyer, and you also have to pay the duty to the government as well. So starting from scratch till the end where the product has to be delivered, everything is under the responsibility of the seller, right? So the last one, DDP, we might have uh, witnessed this payment term as consumers, right? How? Because whenever you order something from any online store, right, and it is coming from abroad, right? For example, I have placed an order on Amazon, right, and it is going to be shipped from US, right, to UAE, right? So the transportation is going to be borne by the seller. Everything is the price will include all the things, right? Later on, if the courier company, right, they are going to release the product, right, they are going to pay the duty to the government, right, upfront. When they are going to deliver it to me, they are going to ask for the additional amount that they have paid in terms of duty to release the cargo, right? So I will pay the extra amount of the duty that has already been paid, while the rest of the pay amount I would have already paid in advance through my credit card on the seller's website, right? So these are some of the Incoterms which for all of the mode of transport, right? So mainly these are related to land transport and air transport, right? Now let's look at the Incoterms specifically related to the ocean shipping, right, or sea transport, right? So very first thing is FAS, free alongside ship, right? What do you mean by alongside ship? Means if you directly translate, alongside means there is something very next to the ship, right? So the responsibility of the seller, right, will be to take the product from their facility, transport it to the port, right, clear the goods, get the goods entered into the port, right, and deliver the container, right next to the ship, right? So as soon as the container is being placed right next to the ship, right, the responsibility will be transferred from seller to the buyer, right? In case the container uh, go go into the ocean, right, during the shifting process, right, crane broke down, right, the responsibility is on the buyer, right, because the payment term, because the Incoterm is saying FAS, free alongside ship, right? Then comes FOB, free on board, right, means that now the seller is liable to get the container loaded on the ship, right? Previously we were only discussing that the container is going to be placed alongside ship. Now the container is going to be loaded on the ship, so that is called free on board. So cost, profit, inland transportation, right, clearing charges like crane handling charges, right, That's it, right? So that is what FOB is called, right? So after FOB, you are going to place the local origin port, right? So FOB Karachi, for example, that means that the container is being loaded at the Karachi port, right? So that is FOB, right? Then comes CFR. C means cost, F freight, right? So CFR means now the seller is also going to add cost, profit, inland transportation, clearing, handling, and freight from the origin port till the destination port, right? So that is cost and freight. So the responsibility now is being going to be increased for the seller, right, and decreased for the buyer. So the buyer responsibility is going to be shifted to the buyer, right? The responsibility of the goods is going to be shifted to the buyer when the goods is going to arrive at the destination. For example, CFR Houston. So whenever the goods is going to be reaching to Houston, so the responsibility of the goods is going to be shifted to buyer when the container is going to be unloaded at Houston port. Till the time whatever thing is going to happen with the goods is going to be the responsibility of the seller, right? That is called CFR, right? In case, just like we were discussing in the previous slide, insurance, so same insurance is going to be added here, right? So that is going to be called CIF, cost insurance freight, right? So one more element added to the previous payment term, to the previous incoterm, right? So that is insurance, right? So that is a CIF. And the next after CIF you are going to add the destination port, right? So example here is CIF Luanda, right, which means that the seller is liable to transport the product till Luanda, right? And they also going to be getting the products insured, right, due for the transit, right? So that is what CIF is. Again, one more payment term can be added here, called DDP, right? I have witnessed that payment term, right? So one of my clients, right, he was a small trader and he was really interested to import the product, but he was not really well aware of all this shipping, all these terms and all these things. So he requested us that I would ask a favor that you can convert that Incoterm into DDP, right, and pay all the things and get the product delivered at my doorstep, or at my warehouse. So we communicated with the shipping lines, right, to in order to facilitate the customer, right? So all the duties and all things were paid in advance, right? And the goods were delivered by the shipping line, including that another contract was being handed over from the shipping line, right, to a transporter who cleared the goods, paid the duty, right, and transported the material from the port to the warehouse of our buyer, right? So that is DDP. That was also that can also be applicable in sea shipping in case some customer is requesting that, right? So both these previous slide, all these incoterms and in this slide can be used anywhere, right? So these four terms are specifically related to shipping line, right, in ocean shipping, while the others, the remaining previous slide, are for all the other transportation models, right? So these are Incoterms. So I hope you have understood all these things, right? And you are going to be clear when the responsibility is going to be shifted from seller to buyer. So this is very important for an international business graduate to know when is this responsibility of the goods is going to be shifted from them to their buyer. So you have to be proactive. You have to be continuously in contact with all the stakeholders, all the transporters, where the goods are, what is the status of good, when it is going to be reaching, right? Is there any action that is required in between, because a lot of times the material get unloaded at transshipment port, right? The transshipment port is because there are a lot of, just like you are going for an international travel, right, and you disembark uh, at a hub airport, right? For example, you are going to Belgium, right, through Emirates airline. And first you are that Emirates is going to take you to Dubai, right, and from there you are going to change the aircraft which is going to take you to Belgium. Same happens in sea shipping, right? So there can be some hub ports where all the containers from nearby region are going to be disembarking there, right, unloading the material, and then new vessels are going to be loading the material which are going to take the that material to that destination, right? So same things happening here. So sometimes during that transshipment material get delayed, or material or the container gets shut out, right, because there was no space, because of time constraint, right, the vessel has to leave, right, and they cannot wait anymore, so they leave some of the containers. These things are normal, right? And but these things can create some panic with the buyer, right? So you have to know how to handle all these situations. You have to continuously be in contact with the shipping lines, right, to know where where your cargo is and when it is going to be loaded. In case there is any delay, you have to immediately contact your buyer, because they are also going to be mentally prepared before time, because they have to take all these actions. They have to file all the documents to the local shipping port at their destination, so that the goods can be cleared in time, right? So being a business graduate or being an international business professional, you have to be very vigilant about all these Incoterms, and you have to know where your responsibilities are going to be shifted. Even for example, your responsibilities has been shifted to your buyer, but still you are doing a business dealing, so you have to be facilitating your buyer, even though, right, the material responsibility have been shifted to your buyer. So that is what you can say a good businessman are, right? So this is how these are the signs of a good businessman or good key account managers is, right? Even though the responsibility is on buyer, but still he is facing some issues. He cannot connect with the shipping line. He cannot contact with the right person. You are going to be intervening, and you are going to help them or assist them so that they can clear any difficulty in the business transaction, right? So if you are doing that, if you are being proactive, right, in all your dealings, right, without taking any charges that now, okay, my responsibility is over, right, everything is now on my buyer, so I don't care, right, my responsibility is over. So these things are not going to take you long term with your business relationship. So you have to be proactive, right, in your business dealing. So that is what key account managers are. So this is what the responsibility of key account managers. So we are going to meet with a new topic in the next session.